It's my honor and privilege to be part of Agile Humans. I think we're on episode 50 or 51, long running method. Sorry, I'm not in Belgrade right now. Not all of you are either, but sorry, I'm not. I'm in Seattle, Washington. I've got an office in Tokyo and an office in Hawaii, and I'm visiting Seattle, Washington at the moment. So while it's 8 p.m. in Belgrade, it's just noon. It's just noon here in Seattle, Washington. What I'd like to talk about is the House of Lean compared to the Tunnel of Musk. Now, before we do that, is there any other piece of introduction anyone in the Agile Humans groups wants to give to what is Agile Humans, or why we're here, or why Joe Justice has been invited to this episode? Okay, no, I'll go for it. But then do please remind me of the time. How long should I chat? I don't know our finish time. Is it 50 minutes?
It's going to be 1.5 hours.
1.5 hours? Oh my
goodness. Yeah, is that enough?
It depends what all we want to cover. Depends what all we want to cover. Let me give a little bit of introduction. Can you see me running from a bomb? Okay, so that's sharing. Here, I'll attempt to animate zooming in. Hi, I'm Joe Justice. I teach the Ultimate Agile series. There's a foundations level course, an intermediate level course, and the advanced course. The advanced course is what I learned working from Elon Musk. Even the foundations course brings us towards that, but it's much more understandable for traditional companies. So it's a 3-course progression. I used to call it Agile hardware, and then the software people and business people didn't come. And if I called it just Agile, only software people came. So I started calling it DX for digitalization. I really want to call it the Musk method because that's what I'm trying to do. It's what I learned working for Elon. It's basically how Elon would run your company. But I think no one should use the name Elon or Musk except Elon or Musk, especially since I retired from Tesla in 2020 and Elon's continued to innovate. We can learn some of it from Twitter and YouTube and podcasts. And so I have a pretty good idea how Elon manages the company still 2 years later. But only Elon, I think, could have something called the Musk method. So I call it Joe DX. It's my understanding of what I learned working for Elon Musk. And it's for the whole business. It's for software, but management, procurement, vendors, everything. I split it into 12 steps. Each solves a specific problem for most types of companies. The first step, launch, is how Elon gets a workforce. Okay, I'm completely distracted by a super cute cat. Thank you so much, Bilanya. That is an adorable cat. Please, more of the cat. More. Yes. And okay, and back. But thank you. The Musk company's workforce is famous for wanting to charge at the mission, for wanting to work. It's not that they're mandated to work long hours. The Musk company workforce is famous for wanting to keep working, for reprioritizing their life. It's like their favorite sport. And if you went professional at your favorite sport, sometimes you do a practice in the morning and another practice in the afternoon. Sometimes you'd even do 3 practices in a day. You might change the way you eat if you went professional for your favorite sport. You might ask your family to start checking your mail for you most of the time, so you could really focus on training for your favorite sport. The Musk companies are famous for having an employee base with that level of interest. So how do you get that? It largely comes from the way teams are launched. They're given what I'll call Agile DNA. It's 15 rules, and everyone's told, if you don't break these 15 rules, you can basically work any way you want. Your job is to follow these 15 rules if you can, and go as fast as you can. So let's zoom in and see what some of those rules are in the launch section. I'll propose that companies score themselves on each of these 15 rules. I call it the anti-handbook handbook retrospective. So first is trust. Are you willing to give nearly 100% trust to every other employee in the workforce? Like hand your credit card to them if you need to, or have them hand it to you if you need to go get something. Are you willing to operate at that level of immediate trust with people you've just met in the company, including vendors? Communication. Are you willing to operate without any communication? Yeah, be as transparent as you possibly can, but never wait for communication. Just go. If you think you see a problem, are you willing to try to solve it yourself with whoever's around you immediately, without waiting on anyone else, without waiting on a manager, without waiting on a performance review? Are you willing to do that? Job duties. Are you willing to work on whatever you think is the problem? No matter what it is, no matter where it is. Maybe you were hired as a software developer and the problem right now is about welding. Are you willing to try to learn to weld right now? Like watch YouTube videos, holler, is there someone near me that is good at welding? Can you look at what I'm doing? Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to work way outside your comfort zone every day, all day, at whatever you think is the problem without any communication if needed? Safety. Are you willing to never skip the prescribed safety steps? If there is a safety rule, it's because they need it. So are you willing to work without communication, way outside your job duties with whatever the prescribed safety steps are? Are you willing to do that? Attendance. It's okay to be late. It's okay to take sick days. It's okay to have vacation. But if you ever don't call and don't show up, so people are expecting you to be there and join their group, join their mob, join their ensemble, and they're waiting on you, that's unforgivable. Because not only are you not there to contribute, but you've just slowed down more people. You've had people waiting on you. That's not okay. No call, no show. Are you willing to never do that? I mean, if your phone breaks and your car breaks, so you have a really good reason, yes, that's fine. But if it's not that level of good excuse, are you willing to never do that? Never have a no call, no show? Are you willing to also work outside the company? Now, the Musk companies really surprised me. Actually, I shouldn't say I expected it, but many people would be really surprised. You are encouraged to work outside the company at the same time. Remember when Musk open sourced almost all the patents? I think it was in 2014. And even did it with a meme. All our patents are belong to you. A play on all your base are belong to us. That's because Musk wants the world to transition to sustainable energy. And the goal isn't necessarily for Tesla to make 100 million electric cars. It's for someone to make 100 million electric cars. So if you want to work for an outside employer that's specifically a competitor using Tesla patents to try to help them, that is okay. Now, you don't have to, but it's encouraged. So are you willing to work with people who are working outside the company, maybe with competitors? And are you willing to consider doing that yourself? Okay. Fun. Are you willing to take responsibility for your fun and the fun of the people working around you? If there's anything you can do to increase the fun of your work or the people working around you, are you willing to do it immediately without asking for permission? As long as it doesn't degrade safety or performance, as long as it doesn't hinder the work, but increases the fun for you and the people around you, are you willing to do it and not wait for someone to make work fun for you? Then you're in the right place. The moral of the story, you are going to be working autonomously with whoever's there. It's your job to trust them and it's their job to trust you. It's your job to try to find where you can add the most value, and it's your responsibility to do it. Even if there's no manager, even if no one is giving you a performance review, even if you have potentially no communication, and you are going to make sure people aren't waiting on you, you're going to let them know if you're not there. That's okay. Then they can keep working. You don't have to be there all the time, but let them know. Don't say you're going to be there and then don't be there. That's not okay. And are you willing to make your work as fun as possible? Then resolving concerns. There's 2 human resources departments They'll respond to iMessage. That's the majority way to talk to them, by messaging, instant message on your phone, iMessage or Signal. Or you can go talk to them face to face, or you could send an email, but email's pretty slow. There's not a lot of email in the Musk companies, very little actually. It's just too slow. It's mostly iMessage or face to face. So you have resolving concerns channels through the 2 Agile people operations groups, the 2 HR groups. This is it. This is the entire employee handbook. It's called the anti-handbook handbook. And I ask my clients now to score themselves according to these pieces. And then how many other policies do they have that the employees are responsible for? In the Musk companies, there are not other policies. You don't have another handbook or set of rules. So you don't have to wait for permission from some other group, some management coalition, before you do something, even something big, like buy big robots, like 300,000 euro robots. Just do it immediately. Operate in high trust if you truly think that's the best thing. And you don't have to wait for permission to do it. This Agile DNA scales. In fact, I think this is the only way to actually scale Agile. There were no PSIs, there was no PSI planning, there was no big room planning, there were no trains, there were no Scrum of Scrums or Meta Scrum, there were no product owners, there were no Scrum Masters, there were no stand-up meetings, there were no retrospectives. Instead, everyone had these 15 rules, and they signed that they would agree to hold these rules up, and they acted autonomously. And 110,000 people work in Tesla this way every day now, with 500,000 suppliers. That is the scaling method, this Agile DNA. Now, there's 2 pieces that support that. For those of us, this is the Agile Humans Meetup. So some of you are deeply skilled in Agile methods. There's 2 pieces that make this work. Well, 3. First, the anti-handbook handbook, these 15 rules. And then everyone is asked to do your chores. The chores are the things you don't want to do, no one wants to do, and you need to do them every day. And Elon also does it every day. And here's what that includes. That includes finding anyone who's not holding themselves accountable to the 15 rules of the anti-handbook handbook and coaching them, saying, are you okay? Do you need help? Can I support you? And if they're intentionally not complying with the anti-handbook handbook, it's your job to report them to HR, or they really should report themselves to HR. And it's HR's job to help them find a job somewhere else or grant them early retirement. What that does is that is what creates psychological safety, because you know the 110,000 people around you are people who are actually interested in the company mission and wanting to work in according to this rule set. Most companies around the world have some people who don't work that much, or sometimes even sabotage other people's work to make their work look better, and nothing happens. Nothing happens at all. And that makes high performers want to leave, want to go to another company where they can be noticed for performing highly, or at least they're surrounded by other high performers to learn from. But when low performers, intentionally low performers, and even saboteurs are allowed to stay in the company and even get promoted, that would make the culture not compatible with the level of speed that the Musk companies want. So you need to do your chores and try to help them. And if they intentionally don't want to be helped, then it's your job to help coach them out of the company. And you don't have to take only my word for it. Here's a LinkedIn post from Ted Malaska, Senior Director of Applications and Software at SpaceX. Someone from my old company interviewed at SpaceX today. They asked, what are the major differences between the 2 companies? Here was my answer. You know all those product managers, program managers, agile managers, and architects? Yeah, we don't have those. You know all those politics, product increment planning, telephone games, and long debates about nothing? Yeah, we don't have those. In short, we trust engineers and put them in front of the problem. The result is about 10 to 20 times more output per engineer and an increased feeling of meaning as the work is directly related to the outcome. Oh yeah, and we are going to Mars. instead of optimizing for taking money from people. So there's that. It helps that the companies are mission oriented. Man, we could take this conversation so many different ways. You know what? Let's take this different ways. So step one, you launch the companies with Agile DNA, the anti-handbook handbook, and then you do organize your work around the justice board. This is one of the 3 pieces that was named after me. We can talk more about that if there's time. The company is absurdly fast as a result. There is no waterfall at all in any of the Musk companies. In fact, there's no Scrum at all in any of the Musk companies or Scaled Agile Framework. They're too slow now. In the Musk companies, they do radical self-organization. It's a lot more like open space, where you self-organize around available projects, and then you mob in the projects to get it done, mob development for all types of work. Budgets are reallocated as fast as products are made. Products are made as fast as every 3 hours. Design, build, test, and deploy, and certification. As is actually in some cases as fast as 45 minutes. Some of them are 2 weeks, some of them are 2 months. A lot of them are around 3 hours. The budget is reevaluated as fast as the product is introduced. And that changes the way contracts are written. If we ever did a class together, the Joe DX class together, we'd practice writing Agile contracts. They don't use lean coffee because they don't have any meetings or almost any meetings. But the way employees choose the work and choose how long to work on the work is a lot like lean coffee. So for those of you with experience with lean coffee, you'd be very comfortable in the work groups in the Musk companies. Even though they're not using lean coffee to run meetings, they're using something very similar to lean coffee to run the work groups. I did write a book about this. There's a free preview. It's in 8 languages. I would love to have this book available in more languages. If you are interested in any level of translation, please tweet to me at Joe Justice or email me joe at abi-agile.com. I would love support making the book available in more languages or improving the translations that are there now. In the teams, every team does group work. It's not exactly mob, but it's very, very similar to mob. If any of you have not done mob development before, formally with a driver, a navigator, and mobbers, and then going up roles all the way to level 4 with a traffic cop, if you haven't done that yet, that would be my pre-interview advice for you before applying to work in a Musk company. Mob a lot on as similar work as you can find to what you think you're applying to do at the Musk company. It's not exactly mob, but mob is the most similar thing I've ever seen to how work works in the Musk companies. It is group work. You are not doing solo work. That's just too slow. The error rate is just too high. The work is split into parallel executable projects to minimize waiting. You will never wait on someone else. And you won't multitask while you wait. You just simply won't wait on someone else. You'll then join the work the next person you'd be waiting on would do. Like, you go with the work all the way through until it's done. That means you're radically cross-functional. And the Musk companies are famous for growing that, even out of people who didn't think they were that smart, even out of people who didn't think they were that hard workers. It's so fun. It's all gamified. So you just play the game through the levels. And the game in this case is building rockets or building cars or boring tunnels. You don't have a manager in the normal sense. There are managers to take legal responsibility if something goes wrong and fill out the required legal reports, but they don't do a performance review of you. They don't audit you. They don't set goals for you. Sometimes they don't even communicate with you. They're too busy. You instead ask apps. You ask programs. You ask programs, is it okay for me to spend money? Is it okay for me to take vacation? Is it okay for me to join this type of work? Is it okay for me to build this thing? Is it okay for me to reprogram these robots to change their work? And these apps are not perfect. Sometimes their answers are wrong, but their answers are not worse than the humans they replaced. And they're instant. You never have to wait. Because of this digital self-management, you never have to wait. A useful phrase is, why would we ever ask a human this question and then be honest about the answer? Why would we ever ask a human to make this decision and then be honest about the answer? And that creates the culture in these companies. What's resulted over the years, Tesla since 2010 really focusing on this, so more than 10 years now, 12 years, is you have a digital backbone for the company that makes most types of decisions instantly. And no one else can keep up because the decision-making framework at all levels of the company is instant. It's like every other company in the world is still sending paper mail through the mail, taking days or weeks. And then suddenly one company has skipped email altogether and gone direct to instant chat. The difference is like that. Most companies take a week, a quarter, maybe even a year to make a significant decision. Most decisions, including the significant ones, are instant, 5 seconds or less. And it's because of this stack, this digital backbone the company's evolved. Let's move down. Managers rotate roles multiple times a day. Manager training is available to anyone on apps on their phones. So you essentially don't have any classes. It's a classless system. Most manager approvals are automated by apps, the digital self-management. Leaders are model contributors in the mobs doing the work. Elon too. Elon is in the factory, bending metal, writing Python, unloading trucks 12 hours a day. So just for fun, how to be Musk. Generate as much working capital as you can. Use 100% of it to execute on your mission. Work 12 hours a day with anyone who will work with you. Own no house, sleep in the factory. This is actually what Elon does. My proceeds from PayPal were 180 million. I put 100 million in SpaceX, 70 million in Tesla, and 10 million in Solar City. I had to borrow money for rent. True story. It's actually how it goes. Okay, let's get to the title of the talk. Well, I'll finish it. I'll wrap it up. Leaders are model contributors. It's really cool. Musk retweeted me. That was cool. Musk retweeted one of my presentations on what it's like to work in Tesla. Thank you, Elon. I got like 10,000 new subscribers that day. Open space technology is not exactly how you decide your work in the Musk companies, but it's super similar. If a traditional company is watching this and you're in a leadership role, I would recommend you pick a pilot project to try to operate in the Musk model. Create an executive support actions list for that pilot project so that pilot is likely to succeed, and make the transformation visible on your justice board. And I will sum up what the Musk companies do as truly the new world class. Your ambitions might not be the same as Elon's. Your ambitions might have nothing to do with Tesla or SpaceX or the Boring Company or OpenAI or Neuralink. Your ambitions might be very different. But if pace of innovation is important, some of these practices are worth considering. They may be useful to you because the Musk companies are optimized for only that, pace of innovation. So if pace of innovation, speed of new product release, new product development is useful, please consider which of these could be practical in your company at some point. Okay, first, individuals have Agile DNA from the moment they're hired. So you have these empowered people that know what their decision-making rights are. And that happens because of the anti-handbook handbook. Individuals choose their own work. That's because of the Justice Board. For a lot more information on that, you can take the JoDX class with me. There's one next week on the Europe time zone, also another one next week on a USA time zone, and on an Asia time zone, there's another one later on in November. Individuals self-organize into mobs of 2 to 5 people, 2 to 5 people work groups. Mobs form around a dynamic list of prioritized work, and that list is prioritized by an artificial intelligence. That's the Justice Board. Individuals propose work and how to measure its value. Again, the Justice Board. Mobs independently deliver to their interface, to their definition of done. So you never have to wait. You deliver to your definition of done and you're tested at the definition of done. Did you actually finish? Mobs independently update their interfaces and provide adapters. So we don't have any meetings across groups to discuss changing interfaces or dependencies. It's not needed because the dependencies are interfaces. And if any one team makes a change to an interface, they also include an adapter to the previous interface. So they don't have to discuss with any other team. They don't have to coordinate with any other team. They just release it. Then the other teams see that the product has arrived, a new version with an interface. So they know as soon as they can, as soon as it's reasonable for them, they should re-architect to meet the new interface so that we can discard the adapter. But there's no waiting and there's no cross-coordination meeting. It's simply not needed in this format. This is the leanest scaled agility I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like this in less, even in Scrum of Scrums, definitely not in Scrum at Scale, not in the Scaled Agile framework. And it doesn't mean those frameworks are not awesome. Those frameworks, I think, bring us towards this. So most companies budget a year or longer. They should probably start with the Scaled Agile framework, honestly. They probably should. And they should probably try to get to quarterly releases and quarterly budgets using SAFe. That'd be a really good move for most companies. And then they should discard SAFe. They wouldn't need it anymore if they're reliably at quarterly budgets, and they should move directly to something like LESS, like large scale Scrum, because that's much leaner and you don't have nearly as much overhead of coordinating the trains, the big room planning, etc. LESS is much leaner and it works well for quarterly releases and helps us get faster. By the time we're at regular weekly releases with weekly budgeting, I mean, it's not like we planned 52 releases. So we planned a year in advance and funded it in an annual budget. No, we release once and then we learn from it and then replan what we do next, which is a rebudgeting event. So if we're actually budgeting at the speed of product release and we get to product release reliably once a week, we can discard even less and go direct to something like Kanban. By the time a company is releasing multiple times a day and reallocating significant amounts of money based on what we learned multiple times a day, even Kanban is too slow. The boards become irrelevant. And at that point, we're doing what the Musk companies are doing. And you just use a justice board. And the anti-handbook, the justice board, laws of open space, and mob, and you're done. You're doing Agile at Tesla. And I've never seen anything as lean or as fast, or as flat, or as self-organized. Mobs independently deliver value to their interfaces. Mobs independently update their interface and provide adapters. All interfaces and mobs are covered by automated definition of ready and definition of done tests. No logins for all tests and KPIs. Everyone can see the tests and KPIs in real time without ever logging in. They're on everyone's phone. They're on monitors every 3 meters in every work building. All tests and KPIs are visible from any work location. Company policies simplified to 4 pages or less. Contracts are 1-page plain language and any employee may sign. Approvals are automated and instant. Supplier contracts request updated deliveries weekly or faster based on analytics of the previous version in use. So suppliers change what they deliver to you once a week or faster based on real-time analytics of what they delivered to you last week. Products are split into as many parallel executable work streams as available teams. Justice's law. You don't want more work streams than teams, and you don't want more teams than work streams. So it's a balancing act. Shared services teams are eliminated or meet sub-minute SLAs, service level agreements, and that's part of Justice's law again. Teams have no meetings or presentations. Email is eliminated. Communication is by iMessage or Signal. Teams that share an interface work within 3 meters of each other. Design, production, and maintenance have no separation or distinction. Waiting on management is replaced with apps, digital self-management. Artificial intelligence guides purchasing. Artificial intelligence guides daily budgets, #no budgets. No class distinction, same bathrooms, same kitchens, same parking, etc. Everybody drinks the same coffee. Everyone uses the same bathrooms. There's no executive chefs. Everyone has the same parking. And because of that, parking is great. There's valet parking for everyone, every single person. Because of that, the coffee is great. It's some of the best coffee I've ever had, and everybody gets it. The bathrooms were really bad though. So it was not perfect. The bathrooms were awful. Accountable owner does their chores every day, eliminating or sequestering those people that are not operating with Agile DNA, the handbook, high trust, high standards. And with that, you've seen a summary of the 12-step program to rescue a traditional slow company with 100-year, 150-year-old history, any of the above, and turn it into something that's as fast as Musk would want. Again, not every company has ambitions to be like Elon Musk. Not every company has ambitions to deliver like a Musk company, but the pace of innovation part is intriguing and probably useful to most companies. So let's move down to the House of Lean. The House of Lean is defined by lean.org, which is who I need to credit for this image. The goal is highest quality, lowest cost, shortest lead time. Now, the problem statement that all assert with the House of Lean is this is highest quality, lowest cost, shortest lead time of the same product, not shortest lead time of a new product or innovation. Now, the House of Lean is compatible with what we're doing here. We just need to be precise and say shortest lead time of a new product. Then we use lean very differently. Just in time, get something just when you need it. So you have continuous flow, measure takt times, you have a pull system. Yeah, okay, that works. That works. If you're trying to make something new and innovate, you want to do it a little bit differently. Instead, we use some different rules of queuing because we want variance. We want new models introduced continuously. Jidoka essentially means automated testing. It means automated testing, and if you can, automatically correct. And the loosely translated phrase is autonomation as opposed to automation. And it's basically DevOps is what Jidoka was trying to be. It's like a 100-year-old version or 80-year-old version of what we now think of as DevOps. So honestly, this is completely replaced by automated test, automated deployment. They'll simply define it as stop and notify of abnormalities, automated test. Separate human work and machine work. Okay, that's broken. That's a wrong idea. You absolutely want AI-guided work, humans doing the creative part, AI is doing the calculation and repetitive work. The concept of standardized work, also, we've got to throw that away now. Standardized work means you don't get to innovate on your work without permission. You can propose a Kaizen. I would like to deviate from the standard work and make the same thing a different way. I will propose a Kaizen, and that's approved by a Kaizen committee or a Kaizen team. That's way too slow for what we're talking about here. When I worked with Lean at Tesla, they completely had to throw that stuff away. And the result is stability. Well, if you want pace of innovation is the only thing that matters in the long run. You definitely don't want stability. You want quality. And that's what automated testing gives you. You go as fast as you possibly can pass relevant, meaningful tests. If you have instant tests that are very useful tests, they give a high level of confidence that your quality and certifiability is very high, that your safety is very high. If you can test that in seconds, you can vary your work methods, you can have complete and total instability, as long as you have useful, accurate, meaningful tests. If you don't have useful, accurate, meaningful tests, then you can't do any of this stuff. It's predicated on test-driven development, excellent automated tests. And that takes us from the House of Lean to the tunnel of Musk. Some of you have seen the Boring Company, which now operates the Las Vegas Loop, which is expanding, has applied for permits in many other locations, and has a test loop in California. Well, how these loops started, there's a going and coming loop where these cars, electric cars, can drive in these tunnels. I mean, they don't emit any exhaust, so the tunneling issue is much simplified. And they have wonderful autopilot systems. So even with a human driver, with autopilot as a backup, with full self-driving as human assist, they're incredibly safe in these narrow tunnels. So you have one for one direction, one for the other. How this started is Musk said, dig the first one where I can see it from where I'm working. Now, Musk joins the mobs and goes everywhere. But Musk does have an area where Musk will take a coffee every day, and you can find Elon. And from that spot, Elon can look out across the parking lot. And Elon said, make sure you dig the first tunnel here where I can see it. So as part of Elon's normal workday, Elon could see if there's any progress on the tunnel of Musk. Now, how Elon operates these companies, I think I've got here on the executive board, how we train executives. Now, executives have the highest stress operation. They're like, I'm going to introduce self-organization and digital self-management in my company. I'm terrified, right? I get that. So when we work with executives through the 8-step program to operate a company like Elon would, we make it as playful as possible. It's absolutely the most gamified of every course we do. Under that, Elon's first goal for the boring company, the tunnel of Musk, and for Twitter, and for SpaceX, and for Tesla, and for OpenAI, is to align the people who actually own the company, the board, or the owners. They need to be able to make meaningful decisions in less than a day. If they can't, Elon has to dissolve the board. That company has failed. Its management team has failed. Then Elon establishes a 1,000-year or longer goal for the company. For the boring company, it's to eliminate traffic. That's it. That's a goal that Elon thinks will be in one form or another, a meaningful goal for at least 1,000 years, reducing the soul-crushing experience of being stuck in traffic. One way to do that is to dig a tunnel and expand the transportation system. Okay. If that's true, how would we measure success? So what Elon does next is creates an automated KPI, a digital self-management KPI, key progress indicator, that is in service of the goal. That's much shorter term. So for SpaceX, the overall goal is to expand the light of consciousness out among the stars. The DSM KPI, the digitally self-managed progress indicator, is cost per kilogram into low Earth orbit. At some point, the cost per kilogram into low Earth orbit will be so low that that's not the meaningful KPI anymore, and this will change. But the goal will stay the same, spread the light of consciousness out among the stars. So these KPIs change. They change as they're advanced enough, they're not the bottleneck. So for the boring company, for the tunnel of Musk, it's release humans from the soul-crushing experience of being stuck in traffic. The KPI is how many millimeters can we dig in a minute in a tunnel. So these are car-wide tunnels, like you saw. These are huge tunnels. And how many millimeters can we progress in a minute is the KPI for the boring company now. Now, once that number is so fast that these tunnels are dug in a completely different way than previous, then that KPI will change in service of eliminating soul-crushing traffic. Now, some of you might be following. Right now, as this event's being recorded, Elon has just bought Twitter, walked in with a kitchen sink, basically rebooted the company for what many people think is better or worse. That's happening right now. So what's the goal for Twitter, the 1,000-year goal for Twitter? Elon says it's democracy. That's an interesting point of view. So these goals are not set by AI. These goals are set by Elon. Then AIs will assist with the KPIs underneath. And for Twitter, that KPI is how many fake accounts are there? How many bots are there? And that's the first KPI. Once that's a known number and that number is getting reduced or passes at a very low number, a new KPI will be put in its place. But the goal of Twitter is still democracy. That is the goal of Twitter, assisting democracy. So what Elon did in the case of Twitter is he linked that KPI to the fundamental financials of the company. So how do advertisers know what they're getting for their money if we don't know how many accounts are fake on Twitter? This is fundamental to the financial health of Twitter. And it's true. I mean, that is, Twitter's income is an advertising model. And if you're paying for impressions, but you don't know how many of those impressions are humans with purchasing power, your financial model is unhealthy. It can break, it can die. The KPIs for all the Musk companies are linked to the financial health of the business. This is why the Musk companies are not nonprofits and why they are enormously financially successful, because these KPIs are in service of the goal, which is an inspiring 1,000-year-longer goal. But these KPIs are also linked to the financial health of the company. The Boring Company has no future if they cannot increase the speed of tunneling, which reduces the cost of tunneling. SpaceX has no future if they can't reduce the cost per kilogram into low Earth orbit. Tesla has no future if they can't reduce the cost per kilometer driven under electric drive, 100% electric drive, in what more and more people consider the best car experience, the safest car experience, the most comfortable car experience, etc. It has to be a desirable means of transport. And then what Musk does in the tunnel of Musk is he relaunches the company where everyone's job is only to make that KPI better. And this is why Twitter right now, today, is going through mass layoffs. Because Musk said, for Twitter, the one goal is democracy. The next KPI is finding the number of fake accounts and reducing that number. And to do that, Musk says, if Twitter acquisition completes, which it did, the company will be super focused on hardcore software engineering, design, information security, and server hardware. Job interest in Twitter more than doubled. People who like to get work done like to go to a company where they're going to get work done, not be stuck in meetings, not be distracted. Now Twitter has a KPI, find the number of bots and reduce it. And that involves hardcore design, InfoSec, and server hardware and software engineering. What that means is anyone in Twitter who is not today improving, finding the number of bots and reducing it via hardcore software engineering, design, InfoSec, and server hardware, they don't have a job anymore. Now they're offered, would you like to get involved in design? Would you like to get involved in server hardware? Would you like to get involved in hardcore software engineering? Would you like to get involved in information security? And if they say no, I don't, then they're offered early retirement and a severance package, and they're offered help finding a job somewhere else. So it's not this brutal bloodbath where single parents suddenly don't have a way to feed their kids. That's not how it is. It's the goal of the company just became clear. So if you were in some pet project department that had nothing to do with the number of fake accounts and reducing it, and the technology stack to find the number of fake accounts and reducing it, you're then told, would you like to, you're invited, would you like to join the groups following this one new KPI? Because now the company has focus. And if people say, no, I don't want to, then they're offered help to find a job somewhere else, including early retirement and severance. And then you do your chores. Every day, you find out who is not working towards the one KPI, and you're offering to help them. You're offering to assist them. And only if they decline your help and intentionally continue not working on the KPI, then why would you pay someone to not work on the focused goal of the company? So you get rounds of layoffs. Now, these aren't brutal bloodbath, no notice layoffs. You're given an option to rejoin and to refocus your work. You're given a severance package. HR updates your resume for you in many cases, so you're more employable somewhere else. I mean, it's really a golden parachute. You're in great shape. And you can still say you worked for a Musk company, even if it was only for 10 days, right? In that case. And that makes them infinitely more employable. The tunnel of Musk is really this. You align the people who own the company, the decision makers. You establish one 1,000 year or longer goal for the company. You create an automatically instantly measured KPI in service of that goal that's linked to the financial health of the company. You relaunch the company around that goal. And then you do your chores. Anyone who's not contributing to that goal, you invite them to contribute to the goal, or you say, but you're not in this company because this company is for contributing to this goal. Now, interestingly, most companies all around the world decline to do this. The board can't agree is step one, but no unifying body buys out the board to make them agree. So many boards don't agree, even in months or years. Most companies have a mission statement, but have more than 100 KPIs. So they're not even key progress indicators. They're killer product indicators. Like there's maybe 1,000 of them in some companies. Most companies have no digital backbone for decision-making or autonomous measurement of most key progress indicators. They're manual reports that are gamed. In many of the clients I'm with, no one can see the real data. Well, you could, but it's difficult to interpret. So different departments create presentations from the data saying this is what it indicates. And they have conflicting points of view because they're all in service of building different empires, different fiefdoms, different little kingdoms, instead of trying to solve what's the actual problem for the company. Most companies have no relaunch, and no one's doing the chores in most companies. They just bloat and bloat and bloat and bloat. So I teach an executive course on how to run a company like Elon would. You've seen the Joe DX course, the 12-step program to take a company from annual budgets all the way to relatively instantaneous, like every 45 minutes reallocation of budgets. That's called Joe DX. I typically start that with a foundations level course that happens to grant a Scrum Master credential, but it's actually a foundations level course as if you were building your company towards be a Musk company. But it also covers the certified Scrum Master credentials. And then I add finances and contracting, how to finances and contracting work. That's the mid-level course, which happens to grant a product owner course. Then level 3 advanced is Joe DX. And then there's the executive course. That is what I'm up to recently. And that defines the tunnel of Musk as compared to the house of lean. And at this point, I'd like to see if there's any comments or questions, and I hope have a free-flowing session for the remainder of our time.
Hi, I just would like to say it was, I have inspiration. I'm working as HR, and this type of working is really challenging, especially I'm working as HR in Agile companies for 12 years now, and I never see something like this. So my question is, why you left the company? That's one question. Second, are you driving Tesla car?
Daniela, you're fantastic. Thank you for the great energy. Thank you for the positive comment. And you've got an awesome smile today. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I left for a lot of reasons, but the reason I left on the day I left is because you ask an app for time off, and it's actually a really good app in most cases, but I couldn't get it to work on my son's birthday.
Sorry.
My son was, it's fine. My son was turning 3, and the app in general is pretty good, but it's not perfect. And I couldn't get time off on my son's birthday. So I said, I'd been planning to retire anyway. I'll retire on this date. And I took him camping. It was awesome. So that's why I did it on the date. But then why was I planning to retire early anyway? It's fine. It's fine.
Sorry.
I love dogs. I love animals. It's great. I never had as much fun at work as in a Musk company. It was like playing Lego all day, except even better than Lego is like cars, but cars built like Legos. Like it was incredibly fun. I truly loved it. I had 2 issues. You work 3 days a week, 3 12-hour shifts. So you do, and then you have 4 days off. And my problem is on those 4 days off, I wanted to go like rock climbing. I wanted to go hiking. I wanted to like I had another hardware startup. I wanted to do all these things, which is pretty normal in another company. But it means I was kind of tired at the end of those 4 days off. And walking into a 12-hour day kind of tired is not sustainable. What I needed to do was have rest days like athletes do, you know, where you like do your event and then you do your training and then you have rest days. And I didn't. And I was like, okay, I'm getting pretty tired. So I was physically getting I was in really good shape, but I was getting pretty tired because I wanted to really do things on the 4 days off. So I chose to keep running a startup on the 4 days off. And yeah, I was just getting tired. Then the other thing is the stock price went up a lot. I suddenly had a few $1 million. I was like, I'm kind of tired. Why don't I just go buy a condo in Hawaii? And so I did. I just retired early. I bought a condo in Hawaii. And I said, if I don't spend a lot of money, if I don't buy a new car every year or whatever, you know, if I don't go crazy, I can kind of live forever. But I realized I am a workaholic. So I've gotten back into online training for all aspects of the business because I actually love it. And I realized I love swimming in the ocean. Like that is great, but it's not enough for me. I also want to build stuff. So that's why I retired. And then that's why I'm working again, even though I basically retired. I had financial success. And then I currently drive the fastest car in the world. I drive a Tesla Model S Plaid. It goes 0 to 100 kilometers in 1.9 seconds. Before I owned my owned car, I have my own tiny car company called WikiSpeed. Some of you might even know about that. It's very small. We made 14 cars and sold 14 cars. We're very tiny, but I learned a lot and we raced those cars too. So I've converted my car to a race car. It has racing tires and a huge wing on it and a few other things. And I'm hoping to ship it over to Germany to make it a full-time track car for the Nürburgring as part of WikiSpeed DE, which races on the Nürburgring. Now that part hasn't happened yet. So I do have a race car in Hawaii. There's no racetrack in Hawaii. So it's crazy. I like pull up on the beach with this huge wing on the fastest car in the world. But I'm hoping to resume racing on the Nürburgring as part of WikiSpeed DE. And I hope run Agile hardware trainings where we iterate race cars and then race them on the Nordschleife as some like fun race car meets hardware thing. Daniela, did I get to the heart of your question or what you meant? Or did
yes, of course. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your honesty and the full answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Daniela.
Joe, there is one question from Jovana, and it is this model sustainable?
I think it used to be almost not sustainable. When Tesla was trying to ship the model, the Roadster, the first Roadster in 2010, and they'd shipped a few, but they were having issues. That's when I first consulted to Tesla, and they were developing what became the Model S. It was called the White Star at that time, and it became the Model S, their sedan. And at that time, the work ethic expectation was 7 days a week, 12-hour days. And I think that was not sustainable for almost anyone. There were a few people where it was, you know, really people who extremely fit. They've offloaded most of their other responsibilities. If they have kids, they're basically being raised by their grandparents, you know, that kind of thing. Someone else mows their lawn if they have a lawn. Someone else checks their mail, like a professional athlete would, like a professional athlete on tour. Some people could do that, but very few, very, very few. By the time I became a full-time employee in Tesla, you work 3 days and you have 4 days off. I think that alone made it sustainable. I actually think it is. And I've had some chance to think since retiring, why are the 12-hour days so successful? Because they are. One is you have continuous product development. It never ends. There's always another shift, right? So nothing ever stops. And that makes product inertia. And that I think is important. Let me be really honest. When I operated the Agile program in Tesla, I brought maybe 3 things that were helpful. Like I was told, Joe, you're the best interview we've ever had. And I'm super proud of that. I want to tell everyone in the world that people in Tesla said I was the best interview they ever had. Even that, being hired in as the world's expert in Agile hardware, I had maybe 3 meaningful contributions. Everything else was me learning. Like the company is so fast and so efficient. Most of this is what I learned working there. Very little is my creation. Most of this is what I learned from what was already existing. Okay, so what does that have to do with, is this sustainable? The not having work stop, the work inertia of 2 12-hour shifts seems to really work. One reason it really works is there's no sense of personal ownership, which removes a lot of politics. It's not your project. It's the project. You contributed to it from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. and someone else contributed to it from 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. Always what you get back is different. Nothing waits on you. And I think that's very important for avoiding politics, where you're trying to say, no, this project is the right one. That project is not as good, or whatever, right? That really is reduced when you have group ownership. It's the company's product. You worked on it some, but it's not yours. Nothing waits on you. Then the other thing is development never stops. That seems to be important. Now, because I think I've understand why the 12-hour shifts work, I think we can propose 4 6-hour shifts. I think that would also work. Yes, you would have 2 more context switched, 2 more handoffs, so that's a little bit of a problem, but the 2 other big wins still happen. Product development never stops, and you don't have personal ownership, which seem to be important. I think those are actually meaningful pieces. So I think in what I'll now call JoDX, which is not the same as the Musk model, it's what I learned there, but I've built on it a little bit. I think we could have 3 8-hour shifts or 4 6-hour shifts or even more. And I think we'd still get a similar result. So I don't think we even need 12-hour shifts. And so I think it can become even more sustainable than it is in the Musk companies. Did I get to your point, Alex?
Yeah, I think you are. And you didn't talk about Justice Board. It seems like an open to-do list. Can you say anything about it? That was a question from Samim, if I pronounce its name very well.
Oh, yeah. Well, thanks, Samim.
Oh, he also said, I can also see how all of this would work for software, but all the Silicon places I would work are so slow. Any advice getting them to go faster?
I'm reading a draft of a book right now by Alejandro. It's called The Musk Way. It's a draft of a book. He's 52 pages in the version he shared with me. I'm reading a draft to maybe make a forward. And Alejandro reminds me of when some of the lead chip designers from some of the lead companies came to the Musk companies, and they said, on my first day of work, I designed a new chip and it went out into production. In most companies, on your first day of work, you're still trying to get your email address connected. And it is that fast. Like people from what we usually think are the fastest, best companies in the world come into a Musk company and are shocked. Like Twitter, most of us would think Twitter is an awesome Silicon Valley, highly successful company. And Musk comes in and it blows up. Like it's amazing. And I don't mean to like worship Elon Musk. I don't think that's helpful. I think it's useful to say what processes here are working. Do any of them fit our ambition? Do any of them fit what we're after? But I'll say, yes, it totally works in silicon. It totally works in hardware. It totally works in chip design, chip fab. It totally works in airbags, safety critical systems. It works in rockets. And they are done in many cases in less than a day. Like in the case of that chip design, first day of work, finished a chip design, sent it off for chip fab. And now Tesla is building their own, and SpaceX are building their own chip fabs so they can get faster turnaround time at making them. Because right now you are still waiting on the supplier, but your design is as fast as you can design, and they're doing it in less than a day. So yes, it does scale. Okay, then back to the Justice Board. I'll show it to you. Dun, 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 dun. And I do teach the class on this next week on European time. You can see it at abi-agile.com. It's 1,350 euros a person. So I'm sorry, I wish it were even less, but I'm saving up for a Starship launch to prototype space houses. So I charge as much as I can get away with. So it costs $100 million to do that. So I'm trying. I mean, you should have a big goal, right? Trying to save up to buy out a Starship launch and fill it with prototype houses for space. No, you got to have a hobby, right? Okay. The Justice Board. Every day, employees walk into Tesla and SpaceX and choose their own project. No manager tells them what project they must join. Employees recruit each other via iMessage and Signal. The available projects are displayed to everyone. These boards had no name. We just called them the boards. Since retiring from Tesla, I have updated the concept with auto sorting, an all-up view, color coding, and some business rules. And I named it after myself. Sorry, please forgive my hubris. Please forgive my vanity. I named it after myself. They had no name in Tesla or at SpaceX. They were called the boards. I did make some improvements. I mean, not a lot. I mean, really, I observed this concept, but I did add some things. And then I called it the Justice Board after I retired. So we did not call them the Justice Boards when I was there. Let's be super honest. But I am proud of what I contributed to it. And they look like this. There's a row for each available project so that you can self-assign. If any of you have been to an open space, this works like the open space agenda, the available rooms where you could join a topic. But instead of discussing when you get to that room, you work. You work on that thing, and you work on that thing in mobs. So even if you're new to the concept, because of the nature of group work, of ensemble, people help you and you rotate, and people are there to give you instruction. So even as a brand new person, you can usually add value right away in seconds. We call that walk up simple. You can walk up, it's simple enough that you can join, even very complex projects like autopilot. So you have a row for each available project, and that allows you to choose them, and you're recruited. You can choose on your own, but people also recruit each other via iMessage. Hey, we worked together a few weeks ago, and I know your skill set would be fantastic here. I'll invite you. Please consider coming for any length of time to these mobs. We're over here by this column. So in all the Musk facilities, it's on a grid, and the columns have numbers and letters, and you would just organize around a column and set up whatever you needed just near a column. And so you can see and navigate by these columns. These are some of the biggest buildings on planet Earth. So you like ride a bike to get there inside the building because they're huge, and you count the columns down and find the column where you're going. Then another aspect that makes it a justice board is you can see how much money is being spent by that project in real time. That's autonomously measured. It's not perfect. The measures are not perfect, but they give you a guess, a reasonable guess of the rate of spend of each project. So that helps everyone see which projects are spending more money, which projects are spending less money, and get smart about how the company is spending money. So everyone gets towards being informed enough to start to make big financial decisions because they can see where money is being spent, and it's automated. It's on this board. Then humans propose a value statement. This is human proposed. It's definitely not perfect. The humans propose a value statement, how valuable we think this might be to the company's KPI or the overall goal. And again, this is not perfect. It's estimated by humans. There is an automatic calculation called financial efficiency. And it's value, human proposed, not perfect, value divided by spend, by cost. And that gives you a relative efficiency of all these projects. So if we are all on the most financially efficient project in the company, we know we are crushing it right now. And we should probably be trying to evangelize or make even more visible what we're doing and how we're doing it. If we're at the bottom, we know we need to be thinking about big change, about kaikaku, not kaizen, big change, to radically change the value proposition we're making or our rate of spend, or it's our responsibility to shutter the project, to close it down, because we're as least efficient as anything the company's doing. Now, because the value statement is chosen by humans, you can choose a value statement that justifies a long lead expense. Like, let's invest in this thing. It'll pay off in maybe, we hope this year, but maybe not for 3 years. That's okay. You can propose a value statement that will show how that could make sense. That's all right. And it also means these value statements are not perfect. But what it also means is everyone can see the value statements. And if anyone disagrees, they can vote through an app on their phone to propose a new value statement. And if no one votes, the new statement automatically wins, because someone was passionate enough to propose a new statement and no one voted against it. It automatically wins. If people do vote during the voting statement and you just vote on your phone, majority wins. So the value statements can and do change all the time. So this board is dynamic. When I worked in the Musk companies, when I worked in Tesla and visited SpaceX, the boards are one project at a time and they rotate, or you could navigate on your phone and dive in. What I added, part of what I added to make it the Justice board, is you have this all-up view of at least the next 8 projects, and it's auto-sorted by financial efficiency. You could see the financial efficiency, but it wasn't ranked when I was working in the companies. I added, since leaving, that they're sorted. So you can look at the top and the bottom. And I think that's one of the few meaningful pieces I brought in from the Agile principles of make work visible. If it's important, make it visible, to what the Musk companies were already doing. I mean, they already had the board, right? I just agiled it a little bit, and I think it improved. Samir, did I get to your point, or did I misunderstand your point?
I would say you did. Yeah, here is Samir. Yes, you did. Thanks.
Oh,
And there
sorry,
is
not
one
something,
interesting
not Samir,
question.
something, sorry.
There is
go
one
ahead,
interesting question from Milen or Mylene. I'm not sure. We are the only group in whole production company working Agile, and we are happy with our way of working, but the rest of the company not. Where can we start?
Mylene, awesome point. Awesome point. Okay. A lot of the time, people don't know what the Agile thing really is. They have some understanding, but they don't really know what it is. So there's usually an education step. And that's why I have a job. I do these online trainings, right? Then there's also an excitement step. Most people don't want something different unless they're excited about what the new thing is. So it's what is the new thing, and what about it is exciting? and I think that's why a lot of Agilists become champions, maybe is the right word. They practice, try to get good at explaining what it is in an exciting way. If you'd like help with that, that's something I'm often asked to do. And for me, that's an online presentation. I spend 45 minutes or an hour trying to explain what this thing is and why it's exciting. And my one output needs to be, they know a little bit more about what it really is, and now they're excited. That would be my guess. Mylene, I see you're here and you're off mute.
Yeah.
You want to add more to that conversation?
Yeah, actually, I have been in contact with you to bring you to Sweden.
Let's do it.
Maybe you remember? Yeah.
Are you at liberty
Because,
to say which company? Because I don't remember. I'm so sorry.
Veoneer.
Oh, awesome. So I'll do a collaboration with CRISP in their office in March, but I'm happy to do something remote well before that. But I intend to be in Sweden, and then just after Finland, with CRISP and Nitor Delta out of Finland, and CRISP out of Stockholm,
Okay.
But that's not until March. So I'm more than happy to start remote if that's helpful to you. So please.
Yeah, it would be, because I'm working on this evangelization work. Yeah, I discovered that is very important, and to have this one-on-one contact, and also showing the great work we have done. You know, the backlog has been very impressive for the people, just to understand. They now understand what they are doing and what we are doing for them. So and it's 2 teams, one of in development and developers, and the other one automation. So it's so good, and it could be very, very good if we could be agile in production. So that is something that I really would like to hear from you, how fast you can change, how fast you can produce. I heard that there were parallel production lines in Tesla in order to facilitate the change and to move fast.
Yes.
True?
The one piece, actually, there's two pieces of this I didn't bother to fly over, and probably I should have. One is, what are the production practices? There are 11 production practices that make a production environment want change. Most production environments don't want a new product design. They're busy enough trying to Kaizen the product design they have already, right? To make it better and better. So what do you need to change about a production environment so they want new designs? So they're hungry, they're pulling new designs. And that's the 11 extreme manufacturing practices. Now, related to that are these parallel lines of manufacture. And I've made a YouTube video on how this works. It's on my YouTube channel, Joe Justice Zero. There's a musician whose name is not actually Joe Justice, but that's their stage name. They took Joe Justice YouTube channel and the YouTube handle. That's okay. I wasn't fast enough. So I'm Joe Justice Zero on YouTube. And I have a video on how the multiple production lines work. I can at least show the URL. I might even be able to put it in the chat.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, which might be exciting for some of the
Very
people.
much.
Who can find it.
Very much.
It's on this board somewhere. Coming soon. I moved it, and now I have no idea where it is. At some point, I hope to paste a YouTube video into the chat, but you could find it on my YouTube. The title is New Product Introduction, Agile NPI, Agile New Product Introduction. And I know it's here. It was here. I moved it. Where did I move it? It's gone. I don't know. It's gone. Sorry.
Okay. No, but I think it's very important because it's a real daily work or daily fight when waterfall meets agile.
Yeah.
And, but it's very interesting and it's very exciting for us.
If the owners of the company, if the board or the board of the board gets excited, a lot of impediments go away. But we can absolutely start, as you know, anywhere, right? And earn interest by delivering well.
Yeah, and trust. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. To be continued through email. I am joe@abi-agile.com, or even better, publicly at Joe Justice on Twitter or LinkedIn, if you're able to be public, anyone.
I can notice there is a lot of HRs here. And this question is very interesting, and it's related for HR processes. So it's from Nicola. What is the HR process in Musk's companies in order to have people with the right value and easy adaptable to company culture? Recruiting process could be very important. What do you think about that?
Recruiting in the Musk company means someone doing some work somewhere says, I really wish we had one more person or more who could do this thing. And they then directly write the job description, they themselves on the shop floor or whatever it is, right? They write the job description and they post it themselves, typically on LinkedIn and on SpaceX/careers and Tesla/careers, they post it. What HR does is then looks at those descriptions and tries to improve them, edits them on careers, Tesla/careers, SpaceX/careers, and on LinkedIn. So very often you'll see a LinkedIn posting of a job position, and then you'll see edited by and some HR positions, and they're trying to improve it, make it more clear, better appeal. And then those HR people will then market it. They might even buy an advertising word or add keywords or whatever they can do. They will also go on road shows to universities and recruitment events. but job positions start from someone in the company saying, I wish we had this. Then people apply, and the person who posted the job goes through the applied resumes. Or resumes, sometimes it's LinkedIn profiles, sometimes it's YouTube videos of project-based learning, whatever it is, whatever they sent. The person who wrote the description goes through those. HR will help them if they want, but they do it. And then they will call you. So when I was hired in, I responded to a position, and the person who eventually called me was the person who'd posted that position, not HR. And they said, here's what I really need. Can you explain to me why you would be skillful at that? Is how the call went. And then HR's job is to legally hire you. That person has said, yes, we want you. HR, please, with the least amount of delaying work, least amount of anyone else's time, please magically make this person legally employed and tell me when I can meet them legally. And that's HR's job. So for hiring, that's the flow. HR's other responsibilities are responding to any employee concern, whether that's through iMessage or face-to-face or maybe even email, any concern. And first, it's their job to try to support you, soothe you. And then it's their job to say, is this problem affecting the mission? And if HR believes the problem, the concern you have is affecting the goal, the overall goal, the mission of the company, they immediately make an action item, and it goes on the justice board for teams to self-organize around and solve it. And it depends on what the solution is. Is it removing racist graffiti? Well, everyone's job is to do that then once it's on the justice board. It's not like only HR is going to paint over racist graffiti. Whoever was awful enough to do that, fix that immediately. But HR people too. So if you're in an HR role, you will also paint, right? You'll paint walls, you'll paint over graffiti. You'll do whatever needs to be done, but so will everyone else, right? But what you do is need to empathetically, sympathetically, in a loving way, listen to whatever the concern is and give that person at least emotional support, regardless. And then say, is this affecting the mission? If yes, it goes on the justice board. This is a project that is recruiting to fix this thing or improve this thing, to at least make this thing better. As a result, for example, LGBTQ, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer, I think I missed one, gay, queer, that organization has rated Tesla and SpaceX the #1 and #2, it switches which one, place to work for 7 years running, maybe longer. And one of the reasons why is because how responsive HR is to make it feel that you're not marginalized, even if you want to identify as part of a marginalized group, marginalized community, that is not your experience in these companies. And in my experience, they did an awesome job of that. And you can see some results in it of these organizations saying it's the best place to work if you've previously been marginalized. As a result, many of the people I worked with had face tattoos or whatever, something where they would have had difficulty having an awesome experience in other employers, right? They had a home in Tesla or SpaceX. No one cared what they looked like. No one cared what their political views were. They cared, are you impacting the mission in a useful way? Are you contributing to the KPI? And if the answer is yes, you can have any belief systems you like. That's fine. We need to contribute to the mission. We're here to contribute to the mission, not to find if we all agree on the same politics, right? That's not what the work environment is about. So people find freedom in that. And I actually think that's highly beautiful. The work is about the work.
A nice explanation, really.
Yeah, thank you for the reply.
Oh, thank you, Nicola. Nicola, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, just say that I work as a Scrum Master, and since there is a constant flow, well, fortunately not in my teams, but in the other teams connected to the project, HR seems to have difficulties to find proper people, even though company culture is really supportive, and they do not have values like Tesla, but they're striving towards it. So
what works for recruiting in the Musk companies is visible results. When SpaceX has a launch and it works, people want to join SpaceX. When the Tesla Model Y last month became the best-selling car in Germany, and also became the safest car in Europe, as scored by the Euro NCAP, more people applied to Tesla, right? So visible results draw talent. And it's as difficult as that, right? Because results are hard, right? That's why not every company has amazing results. But if we've really focused on a successful company, a good place to work, good as in it makes results, that draws talent. And I think that's the best HR strategy of all.
yeah, I agree.
As difficult as it is, right? But that clarifies HR's job. HR's job is to help people do their job to get visible results. And so it's not that's someone else's job. It clarifies we're all in this towards that goal, that mission. And in the Musk companies, it is easier because there's one goal and then one top KPI towards that goal, right? So it's a lot easier. As HR in SpaceX, you know, the one KPI right now is reducing the cost per kilogram into low Earth orbit. You know that. If that gets better, you'll have an easy time recruiting people. So if anyone has a concern that's related to decreasing the cost per kilogram low Earth orbit, you know that's your job too as HR, right? So it actually simplifies HR also. Or agile people operations.
There is one question which actually was a question I wanted to ask you. And what were those most important things you brought to Tesla that were applicable to their workflow? But that's a question from Ivančica. She was faster than I am.
Thank you, Ivančica. Ivančica, do you want to add anything to that?
Actually, no, that's the question. I'm really wondering what those three things were.
You're fantastic. You're fantastic. Okay. The Musk companies already had at least a bit of even these things. I mean, there was truly nothing completely out of the blue that I was able to bring to the company. But what I was able to do was improve the concept of definition of done and definition of ready. The teams already were working per module. Well, calling it teams, sorry, that's a holdover of all the Scrum I did before. I mean, we call everything a team in Scrum, and Tesla doesn't use any Scrum. So they really have groups. I guess I could say teams, but you come and go, right? Like an open space. I don't know if you would really call people in an open space room a team. They're a group of people in an open space room. It's more like that. Okay, anyway, you have these groups working, and they work to a definition of done. And I helped formalize that with everything the Agile community has figured out about definition of done and test-driven development. And there was already, it was already implied, and some AIs measured pieces of it. I did a lot of training of the automated measurement, the AI measurement, to a specific definition of done that was then posted, like on a column in the buildings, saying, here's the DOD and here's the DOR, except no parts, except no software that doesn't meet this DOR, and we try to measure it automatically. And usually we would then, and I'd help train the AIs to measure it. And then nothing passes this column, this piece of tape on the ground, or this sometimes it's really like a gate inside the building. Nothing goes through there unless it meets this DOD. And that helped enable some radical innovation. The GigaCast was happening while I was there. I don't know how many people have any idea what that is. It was a really good thing, and it changed the cars a lot. And part of what made it possible was the definitions of done being much more clear because of what we Agilists have learned about DOR and DOD. Then another aspect was what I started to add to the board to make it more like what I described as the Justice Board. I did add some of that while I was there to help clarify the rate of spend, et cetera. And that's stuff that we Agilists have learned from different make work visible initiatives, different Agile boards, different group boards, Obeya rooms, whatever word we use all around the world. I was able to improve the boards some at the Musk companies. And then the third was matching the number of available people to the amount of available work, which is Justice's law. All the Musk companies work in shifts, no matter what you're trying to do. Software development, hardware design, procurement, logistics. Actually, those groups are all mixed. There isn't a procurement group, right? You're mixed in these groups. But anyway, all that work happens in shifts, 5 a.m. to 5 p.m., 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. Local time. And whoever arrives is who you have. And they self-organize around these boards. Part of what I was able to help with is having the number of whoever we had. I mean, there's 110,000 people total in the pool, but how many of them are here right now? However many we have. So there's approximately 3, 4, or 5 people per agenda item, per mission to solve. And if we had more people than that, we needed to do refinement and add ready to work items to the boards, later called the justice boards. And if we had more agenda items, more projects recruiting than 3, 4, or 5 people, enough for a good mob, we needed to deprioritize some of those. So we didn't have too few people. So that load balancing, which is Justice's law, was also an improvement over over the really good stuff that was already there. Everything else I learned there, I didn't bring there. I tried to bring everything. I tried to bring awesome retrospective practices. There were no retrospectives. I tried to bring really lean coaching for a daily scrum. There's no daily stand-up. There's none of that. I mean, I thought maybe they use big room planning. No, none of that. There's no trains. It was like, well, what do I do? And okay, that's what I was able to do. I see we're at time, I think, if I'm doing the math right. So let me already say, Agile Humans, you're awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I hope we get to do this again sometime, 6 months, maybe a year, when I've had a chance to, I hope, learn something more. In the meantime, for those of you who try any part of this, I hope you give presentations that I attend so I can learn what works and what doesn't work. And I do have a business now. Please consider bringing me into your companies for keynotes or training. I try to do it all remote, but if we have to, I can come physically, but please remote first. And you can find me at www.abi-agile.com. That's the Agile Business Institute. Or much easier, I'm Joe Justice on Twitter, and LinkedIn is also great. Facebook is also great. I wrote a book. It's in 8 languages. Please help me translate it to more and improve the translations that are there.
Well, okay, there is a lot of comments in chat, and of course they are all beautiful and they're all joyful and they are all just nice, if I can say like that. Thank you very much, Joe. This was very, very inspiring. This was so inspiring that I have 1,000 questions to ask you, but I know that we don't have so much time to answer all these questions, but I'm pretty sure this won't be the last time we are going to cooperate like this. This is just beginning, and we are very happy that you were part of this very special meetup. So it's kind of jubilee, as we already said, and thank you all the participants who were part of both meetups tonight, and thank you to everyone who left until the end. So on behalf of Agile Humans, I would like to wish you a good night for those people who are in Europe, or at least Balkans, or at least our time zone. Have a nice rest of the day, and if there is no more questions, I can just stop recording and make it becomes a memory. Joe, of course. Okay, there is no questions. I can stop recording. So guys, see you next month, and have a nice day. Joe, you can stay at least 2 or 3 minutes to technically close this session, and after that, it's all over. So, guys, goodbye,
you.
and thank you very much.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much.